to the Littleton Conservation Commission meeting, December 20th, 2022. What I'd like to do, I think we've got a couple folks here, as best I can tell, to take a look at the Cobb's Memorandum of Understanding. But I'd like to give Carl just a minute to jump on. So with the leave of everybody here, Amy, there are a couple administrative things we can jump into first to maybe knock a couple 5-minute things off and then see if we can get Carl a chance to jump on.
I don't see 100 Great Road here, and I had not heard back from him. So the either the minutes or the certificate of compliance for 15 Douglas.
Sure. Why don't we take on the minutes first? Has everybody had a chance to review the December 6 minutes? Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions?
They looked great.
Okay. Get a motion to approve the minutes of December 6th then?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Very good. Motion's made and seconded. And Andrew, you want to give us a roll call vote?
Certainly. Kyle.
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Jace.
Chase Gerbeg, aye.
Brian.
Brian Crowley, aye.
And myself, aye. It is unanimous.
Very good. Then why don't we take up the COC for 15 Douglas real quick. And then if we don't have Carl after that, we'll jump into the Cobb's MOU.
This was the patio that the guy had built behind his house. So he did a sort of after the fact notice of intent. And it was all stabilized actually a little while ago. And this was just on hold because he never recorded the order of conditions. So I told him he had to record it before he can unrecord it. So I believe it's all stabilized and ready to go.
I will make a motion that we issue a certificate of compliance for 15 Douglas, Mass DEP file number 204-0950.
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Kyle.
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Jace.
Chase Gerbeg, aye.
Brian.
Brian Crowley, aye.
Myself, aye. It's unanimous.
Okay. What we're going to do now is we're going to jump into the Cobb's Memorandum of Understanding. So Andrew and Brian, Kyle and I have spent a lot of time looking at this with the water department. I see we've got Ivan here representing the water department. What I'd like to do, if it's okay with you guys, is go through the MOU. Essentially, there's two questions that we need to resolve today. One is ideally we agree that the MOU or any recommended changes are good and we can improve it. But if that's not the case, we certainly want to understand if there are any other issues that Kyle and I, you guys see as things we need to work out with the water department. I would say before I jump into it and highlight the content that Kyle and I have put together with the water department, that at least speaking for myself, I think going to recommend that we approve it. Kyle, do you have, we can jump into the details, but start with where we try to.
Yeah, I know. I agree. I completely agree. I think you and I are in a place that we're comfortable with this now. And I know the water department would appreciate it if we can move forward with it based on the timeline going forward after the holidays here and headed into the Springtown meeting. So the sooner we can get on board and give them the support, the quicker they can move along with it.
What I'm going to do is share my screen and take you guys through a couple of the pieces of the language that I think Kyle and I think are particularly important here, that the water department was willing to work with us on. I'm partly sharing this too because I see we've got some folks from the Conservation Trust, so I'll make sure everybody's on the same page here. Let's see, screen one. You guys see that okay?
Yep.
Okay. And so in lieu of reading the whole thing, a lot of the red line here is just administrative markups. Couple of things that I want to highlight though. One is the scope of the water treatment plant itself. So not all of the red lines here reflect, some of these were earlier red lines, but you can see here that the water treatment plant, we have some approximate dimensions on that. What we don't have is the exact, we don't have the exact location of it, but what we do have is the buildable area of it. And I want to highlight what that buildable area is. So here's this red line right here is the buildable area. You can see that it encompasses the 3 wells, 1, 2, 3. For the most part, it represents the offset off of the wetland lines. There's, I think, some acknowledgement here in some places that there's already a road structure in place and so on. But the buildable area, at least as far as the Wetlands Protection Act goes, is really trying to focus it on the upland area. Where within that, and Ivan, feel free to unmute yourself if I'm speaking out of turn here. The exact siting of it hasn't been determined, and frankly, the exact size hasn't been determined. We've got a little bit of a chicken and egg issue until we know that we've resolved this piece. It doesn't make sense to design something, and so this is going to be a little bit iterative. But it is at least defined as being within these red areas as in terms of a permanent disturbance. There may be temporary disturbances outside of these red areas. So that's piece number 1. Piece number 2 is, this was, I think, important to the water department, the access road. This would allow them to pave the access road, but otherwise seeking to minimize the impact of the environment. And this in particular, Kyle and I were thinking is, we don't want to pave anything that could otherwise be a gravel driveway or something like that. And so what we heard from the water department is that that's not always practical to maximize infiltration, particularly on the access road. But in terms of other disturbances, the goal here is to minimize the environmental impact. Permitting, just this was a clarification that was added. Obviously, because of the proximity to the resource areas, the water department is going to need to come back in and seek permits under the Wetlands Protection Act and the bylaw, the local bylaw from us. This addition here simply makes it abundantly clear that us agreeing to the MOU doesn't, in any way tie our hands with respect to issuing permits. The next one, this one's a fairly, I think, big one. In terms of changing it in the future, if the water treatment plant needs to change in size, what the water department agreed to is that a town meeting vote would be required to expand the size beyond 5,000 square feet. And our rationale, mine and Kyle's, was that although this land obviously has a very important conservation purpose, there is a public interest element of this as well in terms of providing clean water to the town. And so if the physical treatment plant needs to be expanded beyond that 5,000 square feet, town meeting would have an opportunity to vote on that and ultimately make the determination about whether or not the public interest with respect to water supply offsets the conservation components. We would be consulted in that, but ultimately it would be a vote of town meeting that would make that determination. And then I think the last major piece here is offsite water. One of our concerns is that the plan right now, the water department's plan as we understand it, is to utilize this treatment plant to treat water extracted from the 3 wells at Cobb's. However, we understand that things can change in the future. What we want to avoid is, I think we call it, and if you give a mouse a cookie kind of problem, where we want to bring in more water from off-site, which that then means we need to expand the physical footprint. Again, the ability to treat water at this property could overcome the conservation interests that we have, but it's very condition specific. So what this says is that the water commissioners and the Conservation Commission will consent by a majority vote to bring in water from offsite, and essentially that puts us in a position of equal footing with the water department to make that determination to, again, potentially sacrifice some of the conservation benefit here for a broader public interest once we've worked with the water commissioners to determine what that might be. And this second sort of the follow on here is what we would consider, and that would include the resource areas and conservation values, but would also include financial considerations and currently available treatment technology. So some of our interests, some of the water department's interests. And then the last piece here with public trails is just if you look at the buildable area here, you can certainly envision the opportunity to have a trail out on the perimeter of this outside of the water treatment infrastructure. And we wanted to make sure that that was on the table as an option. So this MOU is only specific to lots 10 and 11, which is the property that is controlled by the Conservation Commission. This doesn't necessarily bind any of the adjacent property owners, including the Conservation Trust and the private property owners that the Water Department will ultimately also need agreements with to bring this about. But I think the Water Department is looking at this as starting with us and then working out from there. So, Ivan, I'll give the floor to you real quick. Is there anything you want to cover here that I didn't cover, or Kyle, anything I haven't covered?
Yeah, no, Chase, I think you did a great job, and I appreciate all the time you and Kyle have put into this and working with us. I'll just reiterate that we want to work with the Conservation Commission going forward, and tried to structure this that even down the road, we don't know what the future holds. We don't know, PFAS it was something that nobody knew about a long time ago. So not knowing what the future holds, we just want to make sure that we memorialize this so that future boards, that the underlying theme is that water commissioners need to work with the Conservation Commission in a joint effort, moving forward, whatever that future holds.
So with that, I'll note, I checked in with Sarah to make sure she was comfortable just in principle if we went forward tonight. She didn't have any objections to going forward. So that the question for Andrew and Brian is really your comfort going forward, approving the MOU, or evaluating it, discussing it a little more, and then potentially taking it up in the beginning of January again. I do think the Water Department is looking for us to move it along at some point here, and I think that's a reasonable expectation of them.
I think it looks great. I'd echo Ivan's words, appreciating the time that you guys put into this. It looks like both the water commissioner's interests and our interests are, sort of at the forefront, and seems like a great joint effort on this. So appreciate it.
And I would agree fully with everything that Brian just said.
I would suggest before we take a vote on this, I know we've got a number of members of the public here. Please raise your hand via the it's not Teams, whatever we're working on here, if you have any comments or questions. Yep, go ahead, Kathy.
There we go. Trying to bring up my video. Just wanted to make a comment. I understand that this is something specific to the Water Department and the Conservation Commission. But obviously we'll need to sit down with everybody soon at the Littleton Conservation Trust and, talk about a few things that, unfortunately, even though we obviously very much understand the need for, fresh water supply for the town, there's also some specific direct contradictions to what's in the conservation restrictions that we hold. And so I just wanted to say that we definitely want to sit down and talk about it and work things through and get some more details so that we understand fully. And
of what's, to be expected potentially. And, also have a discussion with our attorney involved, just because we also have to take this to the state, of course, to make conservation restriction amendments, which the state does not look upon kindly, but under the circumstances, it being a fresh water supply and all that, I think they'll be a little more lenient. But, I don't want to go into any specifics right now, but just wanted to just say that and let everybody know that we're willing to move forward and work with you and try to nail down the details.
No, it's a good reminder, Kathy. This is really, Ivan and the water commissioners have a lot of work to do. This is the first of many steps, including the state involvement. Ivan, perhaps before we move forward, do you want to speak to I think compensatory is not the right word, but the state's expectations with respect to compensatory conservation land?
Well, as you indicated, this is the first step of many, and I know Corey has laid out, what the roadmap is, where we have to go. So I don't know the exact details. From the state's perspective, he does. But we are going to be meeting with LCT and others moving forward so that we can get this to Springtown meeting. As you indicated, that's our goal, is to try to get it to the annual meeting. This is a lengthy process for us to get permits, etc., for a new water source. So more to come, I guess, going forward.
Yeah, very good. Then I'll ask for a motion here. Unless there are other comments, I'll ask for a motion for a member of the Conservation Commission. That motion, presuming it's a motion to approve the MOU, should probably reference revision 5 of the MOU between the Conservation Commission and the Board of Water Commissioners. Andrew?
Yeah, I said better off if Andrew or Brian made that motion.
So I have a family member that works for the water department, so I was going to recuse myself from this vote, so I probably shouldn't make the motion.
Well, then can we even vote on it? We can't. We can't.
Yeah, we need
vote.
four.
We can't vote on it.
Oh, that's right, because we only have 4 people here. Oh, geez.
Andrew,
I don't know
think
if you have to recuse yourself, because I don't think there's a financial interest that,
Yeah, and I know you normally have just out of an abundance of caution, but Amy, we've looked into this, right? And it's arm's length enough that.
Yeah, I believe, I can't remember,
strictly
it was
necessary.
probably Diane Corey I spoke to, and she said, since there's really no financial interest from your family member, that it's fine. And I thought you would send something down to the AG's office or something, or
So it
the
actually
usual.
Yeah, I spoke with the ethics commission attorney on duty a couple months ago, and she said something that if there was a financial interest, I'd have to file a disclosure and then be able to vote or something like that. But for something like this, it's probably okay because there's no, like you said, financial interest. I'm just always super careful with this stuff, but it should be all right if
Yeah, I think if your family member owned the property and was going to make a fortune by selling it to the water department or something like that, that would be a financial interest. Getting salary is not.
yeah, so it should be okay.
I'll make the motion though, Andrew, just in case.
Oh, thank you, Brian.
So I'll move that we approve the Memorandum of Understanding version 5 between the Littleton Conservation Commission and the Littleton Water Department.
I can second.
Go for it. And you can take the roll call vote too.
All right, roll call vote. Chase,
Chase Carabay, aye.
Kyle,
Kyle Maxwell, aye.
Brian,
Brian Crowley, aye.
myself, I. It's unanimous.
Thank you all, and looking forward to working together in the future. Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you,
your work,
Ivan.
Ivan.
Okay, we're a couple minutes late already. Looks like we'll skip over some, actually, you know what? Amy, we've got Neil here.
Yeah.
Let's
Let's
take care of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anybody here for these projects, but 70 Mill Road has been continued to January 3rd because they didn't get the newspaper ad in. And the 815, 265, 277, 287, 289 Great Road and 25 Robinson Road had requested to be continued until January 17th. So neither of those will be heard tonight.
So let's take up before we move on to 73 Great Road. Let's take up the Littleton Eagle Scout Neil Cop project. So last time we met, we had tabled it to the 20th with a couple things. One, we were looking to understand from Neil what the extent of costs were, make sure that we had documentation of those costs from Littleton Lumber. We had also asked Mr. Kopp to continue to pursue additional funding sources. So, Mr. Kopp, I think what I'd like to do first is just have you perhaps tell us if you are able to secure any additional funding sources, and then we'll take a look at the invoice.
Yeah, so I've reached out to a few friends and neighbors who all said that they'd be willing to contribute. In total, that has been around $100 that they all said they'd be willing to contribute. So that is what I've done in the meantime.
Okay. Very good. Amy, is this you sharing the invoice? Is that
That's
what I'm
me,
looking
yeah.
at? Okay.
So he sent over there was a second invoice, but this is one of them. So we cannot pay the sales tax, but the commission could offer to pay up to the $552.02 or any part thereof.
And what's the total of the other invoice?
I forget, Neil, was that another $600 or $700? I forget.
I want to say in the this one is about 600. I want to say it's in the ballpark of 800.
Yeah, this was the smaller one.
I have it here. No, I don't have it here. I don't. Yeah, 835.90.
Okay, I think we discussed this one. So the total here, 835, 552, so about $1,400 offset at a minimum about $100 that Mr. Kopp has already received additional donations from. I think we've discussed this one extensively last week. What's the pleasure of the Conservation Commission here?
If I'm correct, the ask, Neil, was for to pay this invoice as much as the commission's willing?
Yes.
Oh, that's $552 invoice. Okay,
Yeah, not more than that.
gotcha. Okay. As a reminder, 2 weeks ago, we kicked around options ranging from, hey, this surprised us, we're not comfortable contributing, to we're comfortable contributing a portion, to we're comfortable contributing the total value of it. And I think there were also some potential conditions that we discussed associated with asking Mr. Kopp to reach out to his troop and make sure they understand what how this process should work. Similarly, I think Mr. Kopp, we could also ask you to reach out to the other Boy Scout troop in town to, as part of your public service here, to make sure everybody understands what this process should look like in the future. Kyle, Brian, Andrew, what's your pleasure?
I would be in favor of paying the $562 invoice with those conditions, Chase.
I agree. I feel the same way.
Yeah, that was what I vocalized last time as well. I think that the conditions of kind of a lessons learned, I mean, that's part of this anyway, right? Even as professionals, we're constantly presentations you give that you always end up wrapping it up with a lessons learned. What was the big takeaway from this? And the project is great, and now there's some takeaways that hopefully you can share with some of your troop members, especially just the whole process and making sure, because it sounds like this would have been avoided, I guess, if it's just a little bit of communication that got right. So
yeah. And I would be willing to even have it in writing for you guys to give to Eagle Scouts in the future, when they take on a project, to have an agreement in place that, if they're going to take on a project with the commission, it should be agreed upon beforehand that they come up with all the funding. I could have that in writing for you to give to them.
Or at least be able to present what the funding is going to be, or what funding will be required. I think that's a great idea if you can create something like that.
So I would propose that if we're willing to go that direction, we entertain a motion to that, but we also send a date certain, Neil, maybe give you a couple months, say by the end of February, something like that. Does that work for you?
Yeah. And I can send it to Amy if that's all right with her.
Yeah, that would be perfect.
Curiosity, when does this wrap up for you as far as the project is concerned?
In terms of the project is basically completed. I just have to get one more, a few signatures on my official paperwork, and then I'm sending it in.
So that would be the other question: is the commission okay with me signing off on the paperwork before the end of February?
Yeah, if it comes in and you're happy with it, absolutely.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't condition the signature on that. So
Yeah, and I'm not trying to say we recommend holding up his award of Eagle Scout for this.
I just want to be clear.
Yeah, no, I think
it's a good question.
Good faith effort here that this is something he will follow through with. I'm not worried about that.
Kyle, you able to cobble that together into a motion for us?
Sure. Make a motion that the Conservation Commission supports Neil Kopp with the payment of the $532 invoice, or for the local number.
552.
I'm sorry, Amy.
552.
552. 55202. In support of materials and cost of materials for his Eagle Scout project, pending constraint that he will kind of prepare lessons learned and or document outlining the procedure to work with the Conservation Commission on future projects for Eagle Scouts.
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Kyle.
I'm actually aye.
Brian.
Brian Crowley, aye.
Chase.
Chase Garbage guy.
Myself, aye. It's unanimous.
Neil, thank you so much. It's really an amazing project.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll flip over to 2 Grist Mill. Apologies for being a little bit delayed getting to that. Is the applicant for 2 Grist Mill here?
Yeah, actually, I lost track about who's involved in what, but Matt Marrow is going to be a little bit late. So you probably take the 8 o'clock 73 Great Road and then come back when Matt shows up.
Very good. Let's take up 73 Great Road then. We'll actually do that one on time. So I'll turn it over to the applicant real quick to give us an update on where we stand here.
I'm Kevin Ritchie from Civil Solutions. I'm here on behalf of Irene Welsh, the owner of 73 Great Road. She's currently got a failed septic system. Well, she's got a failed septic system in the rear yard. Got the wetlands, which does abut the project, I believe, at 2 Gristmill. I believe Amy was out there this afternoon with Matt looking
Yes.
at walking the line. So 2 Gristmills just behind it. The wetland line comes up here behind 73 Great Road.
We can't see your plan, Kevin, if
Can't. Okay.
you think you're sharing something, you're not.
Yeah, I did think I was.
There you go.
How's that, a little better?
Yep.
Okay. So we've got 73 Great Road. It's right in the corner of Gristmill and Great Road. The project that is going to be on shortly, 2 Gristmills right behind us here. It shares the same wetland. The wetland kind of wraps around the back of 73 Great Road, up along the side and then down parallels Great Road. The existing septic system is in the rear yard here, the existing septic tank and leach field here, both within the 50-foot buffer. So what we're doing, we're proposing to abandon the septic system, the leaching area in place, just leave it alone. We'll pump out the existing tank, fill it in, and then we'll move the plumbing in the basement and relocate the septic tank to the end of the house so that we're outside the 50-foot buffer. Did file a waiver to be able to fill in the tank, the existing tank, but that would be the extent of the work within the 50-foot buffer. Again, so we're going to relocate the plumbing in the basement, come out here with a new septic tank, and then a leach field here in the front. We've been before the Board of Health last week. They did approve the plan. We're using an alternative system. It's the Presby Enviro septic system. We did look at the other areas of the yard here. Basically, it's just too tight over here. We wouldn't gain anything. And then the same here in the front. We've got the driveway to contend within the utilities. So we're able to push it outside the 50. The proposed system here is 57 feet off the closest wetland. The tank's 55 feet off. And then again, the only work we'll be doing within the 50-foot is filling of the existing tank.
Amy, you've reviewed this wetland line?
Yeah, both this one and the next one. It's pretty much a toe slope wetland. It's pretty straightforward. The only comment I had on this one is they've clearly been throwing all their leaves and brush into the tree line there, and near the wetland. So I don't know if the commission wanted to at least ask them to stop it or clean it up, or it's, it's fairly extensive. He goes, they've been blowing their leaves into the woods. So it's a pile. Certainly not the worst I've seen, and there's a pile of brush probably near kind of wetland flag 7 and 8, somewhere around the corner there, but yeah, somewhere in there. I can't remember exactly where it was, but Kevin, is this house for sale?
This house is for sale. I believe it's been sold or very close. I think they're trying to close on it. I would say I would have no problem if you, as a condition, just putting on you want that debris removed. This is good. It's all, so we've got the tree line here. I think, like Amy said, all the leaves and stuff have been kind of tossed over into the woods, down over the banking a little bit. I think there was a little pile of brush, if I remember, in the back here, like Amy said.
Yeah.
There was one bush here in the side yard. I believe it was a juniper or a rhododendron. That's the only plant that we'll be having to remove. We won't be working in the tree line at all, other than if you'd like the debris removed. And I would think we could facilitate that.
It's not so much a concern of, well, removing what's there, but it's from
Preventing it from happening in the
Yeah,
future.
Exactly, right. And I mean, nice to clean it up now, but how do we keep it from happening with the new owners?
Well, can certainly at the very least write a letter to the new owners,
Okay.
send them a copy of the determination as an FYI and
Yep.
let them know they got resource areas on there.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin, help me understand. So this is sold. Is this? Are you representing the current property owner, the past property owner? What? Where do we fit in all this right now?
Yeah, no, so I'm representing the actual owner of the property now.
Okay.
They'll be paying for the new septic system. They're taking care of all the work.
Okay. So putting a
Yeah, so I
condition
have-
on it is something that they will know and see and understand.
Yeah, I would guess, I can't say for certain, but I would guess the buyer is gonna want to get a copy of the as-built plans once the system's in. How closely people look at them, I don't know. Will they see that they have a wetland around the perimeter of the property? I think probably, like you say, a letter to the new owner might be the best thing.
Yeah,
But
I think
it is still in the hands of the current owner.
Okay.
I mean, that would be like the age-old question: how do you stop anybody from doing that kind of stuff on this project or any other?
If you got solutions, we're all ears.
I'm all ears.
I think at a minimum, at least a letter from us kind of indicated, just not coming out and saying it blatantly, but letting them know, hey, this is what just recently happened, and making them aware that the resource area is there. Hopefully will be a little bit better than some of these past residents where they just buy a house and start building decks and patios and whatever out in the back without even thinking. Hopefully this might trigger them a little bit to be like, oh, okay, you told me this for a reason. I should probably check in with you before I do anything else out here.
I can lay all that out.
Yeah, that would be great.
I would guess the earlier they get it, the better. I mean, as soon as they move in, if they realize that, oh, okay, kind of hits home a little more than having them throw the leaves in there for 5 years and then getting a letter.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Do you have an idea when you expect the property to transfer? Would it before or after the as-built, or who knows?
I'm not sure. I know they're in I'm not sure. They seem to be in a big push to get it done. So, but I do not know the date.
My only other question, Kevin, was the clearance. Do you have enough room to get equipment back there to decommission the existing septic tank and all that?
Yeah. So so there's, I mean, I'm guessing all the work's going to come from the front just because the septic system's here, the tank's here. The tank has been pumped on a regular basis, so they can pump it out easy enough. They just drag the hose over the lawn. Then I would guess most likely the material that they dig out of the hole for the proposed tank will probably just go into the old one.
Okay. I want to make sure, I guess, if that is in fact the plan, because we will hold you to the sediment and erosion control boundaries that you've got there, which, as they're shown, would preclude access the other way around.
Yes,
So,
correct.
okay. I think that's a change if you needed to make it. Amy could certainly work with you to make in the field, but
Okay.
we would expect that it looks like this, barring some other communication with the conservation agent.
No, I would too. I mean, I think it is as part of your approval or conditions is Amy should be notified that the siltation barrier is in and gets to do an inspection on it before anything gets started.
I think that's a stock condition anyway, right, Amy?
Yeah.
Well, this is an RDA,
Oh, or right.
but we can squeeze 2 or 3 conditions in there.
Kyle, Andrew, Brian, any other comments on this? And it sounds like we're coalescing around a direction here.
No particular comment for the project, just a procedural question. Under an RDA, can we issue a waiver? Has that been done?
I believe I've
There's nothing that
issued,
says,
sorry, go ahead, Amy.
there's nothing that says it can't be done. Usually it is with a notice of intent. But that's how this was filed.
It's a good question, though, Andrew. I mean, my 2 cents is this one is so clearly in the public interest that there's no ambiguity in my mind that decommissioning a septic tank out there is better overall than leaving it there. But we should probably make it clear if we do this for the record that, if there were any ambiguities or uncertainties about the conditions of the waiver, that we would request a filing.
I'm thinking I've filed RDA. I mean, these are mostly the kind of projects we do with septic replacements. And I think in the past, I have, anytime gone within the 50 feet for like the decommissioning of a system, I think I've filed a waiver along with an RDA.
There have been at least 1 or 2, I think, where the commission has asked someone who's filed an RDA to file notice of intent because of the amount of work that was in the waiver. But again, this is just the decommissioning.
Yeah, the work that's happening there, it's not very significant.
So,
I mean, it
Amy,
shouldn't be any worse than when they pump the septic tank on a regular basis. They're going to uncover it by hand, pump it out, and then just fill it in. So the amount of disturbance is just going to be basically that small little circle they got tank.
So given all this, Amy, if we were interested in approving the project as drawn with the conditions we discussed, can you give us a form of a motion here that
I would just say move to issue a waiver and a determination of applicability with, I think you have 2 conditions. I'll just write the letter as a separate thing. One that the office be called to check the erosion controls when they are in, and 2 and Kevin probably at the time I'm out there discuss the leaf and brush removal.
Sure. Is your feeling that you would like it removed, or would you rather leave it alone for now?
It's a pretty big pile of brush, and it's just going to be attracting more brush if it's left there.
Yeah,
And the leaves are pretty deep, so I think pull them out of there.
Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, I'll mention it to the contractor before they even start, just so that they're kind of aware that that's going to be something they need to do.
Yeah, and I mean, if we leave them there, especially until if the new owner comes in, that's just saying, "Hey, this has been done before. I'm going to do it."
That's where
again."
the leaves
Right?
go.
Okay, Kyle, Andrew, Brian, can one of you guys give me give us a motion to vote on?
So I'll make a motion that we issue, Amy, would that be a -2 or a 3? -3 determination for 73 Great Road with the aforementioned conditions
And
And a
wait.
waiver.
and a waiver.
And I'll second.
All right, roll call vote. Chase,
Chase Kerbeck, aye.
Brian,
Brian Crowley, aye.
Kyle,
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
myself, it's unanimous.
Very good. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thanks.
And I
Okay,
think
looks
if you
like
wanna
we got
step back-
Matt.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah,
No,
I was
that's it.
step back to 2 Grist Mill. Construction of addition, 2 Grist Mill Road, Mass DEP file number 2040975. Amy, before we jump into this with Matt, you want to give us a quick update on this, and then Matt will ask you to fill in the technical details here.
If I may be able to share my screen.
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay, so. All right, to update the commission, I presented this project at the last meeting. What we have here is we have a notice of intent for the construction of a subsurface sewage disposal system. A portion of this is within the buffer zone. That would be the main going to the tank system, and this main going out. Your 100-foot buffer zone which is highlighted in the yellow dot, is here. So a portion of the tank does go within the buffer zone here. So hence, because the leach field and the tanks were within the buffer zone, we filed the notice of intent. It's been given a DEP number, and the commission essentially continued the meeting because they wanted the area staked out and they wanted to walk it. And I know we had some issues with the original site walk, but Amy and I walked it today so she could review the project site and the wetland line. And that's basically the Reader's Digest version of what happened from then till now.
And
Amy?
again, I'd say the wetlands delineation is pretty straightforward toe slope. And I didn't see any other issues on the site.
I think I don't know if it's probably outside of the buffer zone, but is that tree that's identified going to stay in place there, Matt? Or is that
Talking about this one?
Yeah, that one right there.
Yeah, there's no trees slated to be removed on this project. Evan normally, as part of the planning and part of the way he's evolved in his planning, is any trees of any substantive diameter being 6 inches or greater, he locates. That's the only tree that's in the front yard there. That's going to remain in place. The trees here that are in the backyard are actually the only trees that are in the backyard. Those are going to remain in place. Nothing is going to be touched.
Commission have any questions here?
Matt, can you just clarify? So everything's outside of the 50-foot buffer? Is that what I'm seeing on this plan?
Yeah, he's got an overlapping line of the 50-foot buffer and the erosion control to mark it as limit of work.
I guess I have a question for the commission, and maybe I'm just having a foggy brain here. Why is Matt filing a notice of intent when Kevin didn't have to file a notice of intent for the previous project?
An abundance of caution.
Okay. So that's their obligatory, like that's their prerogative.
In my mind,
Bill
if it was just the tank and the pipes and not the leach field that was in the buffer zone, I would have filed an RDA. But I mean, out of an abundance of caution, I wanted to make sure that it was just an NOI. So if you had any conditions you want to put on it, you could.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's just for my personal curiosity.
I don't have any issues with this.
Matt, do you think the proximity of the work in the front of the house is close enough to that tree that you talked about a minute ago that it would warrant some snow fence or something like that around that tree just to protect the root zone in that area, or is the work far enough away that that would be overkill?
Honestly, I think it would be overkill, but I'll add it if it makes you feel more comfortable. I don't have a problem adding it. I mean, you can add it as a condition, and I can have the snow fence put up and the erosion control, and Amy can come out and view it and make sure that everything's satisfactory.
I wouldn't be opposed to just because I'm wondering, where are you stockpiling materials on site from that leach field area? Or
any material stockpiled on site would actually be stockpiled the driveway in front of the garage.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be there for very long. This is a quick install.
Yep.
So it sounds like we have a condition to protect the tree. Maybe a condition that stockpiling is only to occur in the driveway, or as
There
otherwise
is-
approved by the.
There is erosion control to the right of the tree. That dark dash line, that's erosion controls, yes?
No, those
Or
are
no?
utilities.
This dotted line?
Yeah,
No, that's the new water line that's going in.
Right.
okay, sorry.
Which is pretty close to the tree if you're
Pretty
talking
close.
about digging for a new utility.
Okay, so what I'm getting so far is the stockpile will be limited to the driveway area, and there will be orange fencing showing a tree protection zone around the tree.
Yep.
Okay, that's fine. Easy enough.
Okay, I guess, can we get a motion then on 2 Gristmill?
I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing and issue an order of conditions for 2 Gristmill Road, DEP file number 204-975.
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Chase.
Chase Carabay, aye.
Kyle.
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Brian.
Brian Crowley, aye.
And myself, aye. It's unanimous.
Very good.
Okay. Thank you very much, guys, and have a wonderful holiday.
You too.
Thanks, Matt. You too.
You
You
too,
too,
Matt.
Matt.
Okay, Amy, so our 815 is not coming in, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay. Let's swing back up to the administrative discussion, and then at 8:30, we'll pick up the 8:30 agenda item.
So, and actually, I wanted to add one thing on Wellington Circle and one thing about docks and beach nourishment, sand placement. Where am I? So the grant application is just an update. The SISMA grant application went in. I'm working on mass trails. That's going to be tight getting that ready by February 1st. But we'll see how it goes. And Andrew, FYI, it looks like Alicia would rather that the grant just be paid out of general funds and restored to general funds. So I won't be coming to CPC for that piece of it. I might ask for some additional funding. Otherwise, do you know when your next meeting is?
It's typically the 3rd Wednesday or Thursday of the month, I believe. So we're
Okay,
in
so all right.
December. So it should be like January. Let me check for you. Should be like January 18th, I believe, but I'll keep you posted.
Yeah, if you could, because I want to at least get the eligibility requests in, if not the actual funding requests, before that, obviously.
Certainly. And if you need any help, let me know.
Yeah, you want to do this one? Yeah.
Whatever you need.
Okay. 6 Cottage Way. Honest to God, I forget what the update was. Like I said, I was going to be working out of the office and then it crashed, so I had to run home and I didn't get to transfer everything over here. But it is grinding its way through the appeal process. The next one is the assistant conservation agent hours. We've talked about this a little bit, about Tim Pearson was hired at 19 hours, which is a non-benefited position, in large part because we did not know who we were going to be getting. But because he's been working out, I would like to move him up to 22 hours so he is benefited and I can get more of his hours to get done what we need to get done. And it was just recommended that if you agree, that you just have a vote, a formal vote supporting that.
Yeah. I would gladly make a motion right now that Conservation Commission recommends that we increase Mr. Pearson's hours to at least 22 hours a week.
Second. All right, roll call vote. Chase.
Chase Carabay, aye.
Brian.
Brian Crowley, aye.
Kyle.
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
And myself, aye. It's unanimous.
Sorry, if somebody had anything else to say. I just didn't. I thought it was pretty.
No, yeah, I mean, let's rip the Band-Aid off. This
Yeah.
one's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
I do want to jump in here, though. I mean, and talk about a related issue with respect to the fees, filing fees, and so on that we charge. I think it's been a number of years since we've reevaluated those, and I'm not saying increase our fees because we want to pay for Tim, but they're not unrelated either, you know. And essentially what I wanted to know is if the commission is willing to maybe put that on an agenda for a coming meeting, maybe early in the year, to reevaluate our fees and make sure that they're appropriate, that they're fair, and that we're, both handling our applicants correctly, but we're also in the right place relative to our peers. And so,
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. Is are we still on track with neighboring towns and other communities? I don't want to just hike rates to hike them, but yeah.
So, okay, let's plan on picking that up
Yeah.
maybe early next year.
Right, the next item was the Smith Conservation Land update, just that they're going to be doing some forestry in there, but actually we'll be getting back with more detailed plans. I believe most of the work's outside the buffer zone, but she just wanted to make sure the Conservation Commission kind of knew what was going on in there. And the next one, I actually cut out the title of it. That's for Durkee Farm, continuing requests for certificates of compliance. So here's where we stand. 11 Spruce is ready, and they have signed their waiver. 8 Fraser and 15 Spruce, or their acknowledgement, haven't signed their acknowledgement, but those properties have no issues. And they've had 3 letters at this point. So I don't know where the commission wants to go with something like that, or just let it go. They've certainly had notice that they got resource areas, both 2 letters from, actually probably 4, 2 letters from me and 2 letters from Dave Guthrie.
But they haven't acknowledged it.
They haven't acknowledged it now.
Have we sent those certified some manner?
Dave, I believe, FedEx the original letters to him. I'm not sure about the second round, and I sent the second round certified.
Okay, so we do have documentation that they received something.
Yes. Yes.
And when you say that there's no issues, when was the last time that was confirmed? Like what?
That was based on the as-built that Brian Goudreau did, and he's here if you had any questions. And the last time I was out there, I think it was just before Halloween, when I was poking around just to confirm. So, these are not some of the people that had an extra deck or a fence or were mowing beyond their limits.
I was just wondering if we hadn't, if there was no acknowledgement because there was an issue like that and they were, just dodging, but okay. That's
Yeah, and the several people I talked to were just leery about signing something. And I said, you're just signing that you got the copy of it. So that it could be that, or it could be it's in the bottom of their pile, which was the case with 11 Spruce.
And Brian, you haven't heard anything different than what Amy's saying?
I have not, no.
So I tend to think those 3 are probably ready for certificates of compliance. They have been notified. Well, 11 Spruce has signed the acknowledgement. The K phase 1, the 2040867. Let me think. 5 Fir Lane, I can deal with as an approval for those decks outside of the 50-foot and in the lawn. And those were built by the owner, not by Dave Guthrie. 3 Fir Lane is the gentleman who's got the fence inside the no disturb area. And he is moving the fence. Seems willing to do it and get into compliance. So, and then 1 Fir Lane, I want to go back and take another look at, I'm sorry, at 5 Fir Lane. I want to take another look at them and the driveway. So I want to take one more crack at that. But potentially we could either let this one sit for the certificate of compliance, or we could issue the certificate of compliance. So Dave Guthrie is done. The work that's out of compliant is not Dave Guthrie's issue, and issue enforcement orders, friendly or not enforcement orders, to keep them on track.
So Amy, I think I had asked you this question when it was just you and me one-on-one, but the driveway at 5 Fir, is that right? One of them, the Fir Lane driveway.
One Fir. They
Fir.
go backwards, right?
I get them all
They're
mixed
not-
up.
Yeah.
So that driveway was not constructed by the original applicant, the builder. It was constructed by the current property owner. Is that
Is widened by the current property owner, yeah.
was widened by the property owner? Okay. I mean, my 2 cents is I'd rather close out 8 Fraser, 15 Spruce, and 11 Spruce and issue those COCs, but try and get fur lane resolved before we've got to deal with an enforcement order and stuff like that. It's a tough way to make friends.
Tough way to make friends, but it's on the property owner at this point, right? It's not on the developer. Like, I guess I'm losing sight of who.
That is where this gets difficult, because a lot of these issues have been the current owner's issue, not the developer's issue.
Right.
So Kyle, you'd rather go close out, issue the COC for 0867 and then open up something unique specific to the property owner.
Yeah, what does, I guess, what do we get out of dragging Brian and Dave around every couple of weeks here? Like, no,
Brian
offense,
gets another
Oh, it's
billable hour.
payback.
I do, I do enjoy having you at our meetings, but I don't know that it's what are their responsibilities of rectifying the situations at this point?
Cynically, the answer to that, Kyle, in my mind, is that we keep Brian and Dave in our court trying to get this resolved. You know, they too have an interest in getting this closed out and closed out the right way. I'm not expecting
also,
Brian and Dave would just disappear, but
yeah. And initially, and maybe it's a wild coincidence, is it the houses that had the issues or the houses that did not get this acknowledgement signed?
Yeah. That makes sense. I guess, yeah, all hands on deck type thing to get it. I can support that too. If there's more than one cook trying to push this across, then.
sorry, Brian, I'm sure your client doesn't like to hear that explanation, but we'd certainly like to get these closed out if we can. And any help you and your client can provide here would be greatly appreciated.
Understood. So just to be clear, one fur is the only one on phase one of K that has an outstanding issue, and it's in relation to the driveway being expanded. And that expansion was done by the property owner. What are you looking for from them to come
All three of them have issues,
Okay.
but the current owner issues.
But the current owners on the other two are working on solving those issues, though, right? Oop.
Yes.
I remember the fence. I remember him coming in and saying he was willing to do it, but it was, questioning it. That's fine. We haven't heard from one for lane at all, have we? I don't recall hearing their explanation.
He came to one of the very early on meetings where there was like
Here's
20 of
the
these
first
things.
one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's your
I guess-
pleasure, Kyle, with respect to closing 0867?
If we think keeping it open will help get us traction somewhere, I just want to start seeing it. Anyway, I don't know. Again, it sounds like it's really just one for a lane. It sounds like 3 and 5 are making the strides to
Yes.
work with us.
Yes.
So yeah, knowing that they're working to resolve this situation, I'm happy keeping it open until at least they're done, and then maybe in the meantime, between Brian and ourselves, I guess we have to. Somebody needs to push one for a lane to figure out what's next for them. And I don't know. Probably we might be at fault here too. I don't know what we've done to push them, or if we should be. I don't know. You have what would you like to do, Chase, as far as getting them back in compliance?
I mean, we got to work with them to understand what back in compliance means. I mean, strictly speaking, it could mean removing the unauthorized construction. And my preference would be have them back in. Let's go through our options here. I don't know as the Conservation Commission's appetite it would be to make them do that, but certainly the extreme measure on the table.
Yeah,
Amy, do you think we could?
Good.
I was going to say, Amy, do you think we could have one for lane back in early January?
Yeah, I think we need to better explore what the excess payment at 1 Fir Lane is. And if the solution is to pull it out or maybe add, some drainage, stone drainage, something around the edge of it. It is in the buffer zone, 100-foot buffer zone, not the 50-foot, and it is what would have been lawn anyway. Or do some plantings, or the guy at 1 Fir Lane is also just kind of waiting to hear what the heck he has to do. So having him back in January, probably the 17th, the 3rd is awfully close.
Well, I would say maybe not have him back in on the 3rd until we have him get our ducks in a row. Like I said, it doesn't make sense to pull him in for us to sit here and talk about what we'd like to see if we're not ready to tell him what our, what we
or maybe a site walk. Yeah, might make sense too.
Okay, let's have 1 Fir Lane in then on the 17th. Amy, can you coordinate with them? They're responsive to our communications, right?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. So yeah, the way you're saying that maybe they might be willing to work with us too, or they're at least waiting to hear from us. So that sounds like it's in our court to start moving it along.
Yes.
Okay. Let's have them in on the 17th. Talk about what the resolution of that is. Then we could potentially, I think, even consider approving those changes in real time there.
Yeah.
Depending on the scope. Amy, what would be, let's say we choose some intermediate measure, adding some stone drainage or something like that. How does that get memorialized? Does that get memorialized on the styling?
I think, and this where potentially Hancock coming in with an assist is how much new impervious was there. So we have a number, and any number of these houses have been approved with a minor project change as the impervious went, up or down a little bit. So if that is in fact the case at Fir Lane, that you don't think it's excessive, then it could be approved as a minor project approval. And then if there's any mitigation, do the mitigation and then clean out the certificate of compliance.
Brian, are you and your client willing to give us a little bit of help there, give your client a little bit of help there to get this closed out?
I mean, obviously, I would have to ask Dave before he spends money on something like this, but a square footage number is very easy. I can work with Amy if that's the route the commission wants to go, to get this resolved, hopefully on the 17th. So I'll call Amy and we'll see what we can do.
Cool. So then we still need a motion for 798, 813, and 815 to issue those COCs.
I'll move that we issue a certificate of compliance for 8 Fraser, 15 Spruce, and 11 Spruce. Mass DEP file numbers 204-798, 813, and 815.
Second.
Roll call vote. Brian,
Brian Crowley, aye.
Chase,
Chase Kerbeck, aye.
Kyle,
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
myself, aye. It's unanimous.
Very good. Sorry, that ended up taking a little longer than we thought. We'll move on to 6 Spec Pond Road,
Thanks,
our
Brian.
8:30 agenda item. Amy, do you want to give us a quick update on this first, and then we can let the applicant jump in?
Well, we had the site walks. It seems so long ago. I can't remember who was there. And Dillis and Roy made a couple changes as requested on there, and I'll actually let Seth fill those in.
Okay.
And the peer review, the stormwater peer review has been completed. Planning board's approved.
Very
Yeah,
good.
so
Seth,
good
you
evening.
want to take us to the changes real quick?
Absolutely. So this is Seth Donahoe with Dillis and Roy. Most of us met during the November 15th meeting where we first presented this project. And then we had the opportunity to meet with most of you on the site it was November 21st. At that time, we had staked out some of the key features on the site. And if you'd like, I can share my screen just to refresh memories.
Please do.
So what we're looking at is the existing conditions with the lightly shaded brown area representing the portion of the site that's presently utilized. When we went on the site, you can see that that is basically a gravel plateau. And then when we went down towards the wetlands, there was a steep embankment, a rock slope that goes right to a BVW. The town dump is right to the north of the site, and the Stone Yard site is right to the south of this site. In response to some of the comments that we received during the meeting and at the site walk, one of the items that there seemed to be a little discussion over is that we are proposing an earthen berm or a vegetated berm along the edge of the property. And the intent of that is to basically limit activities in close proximity to the BVW. So presently, almost the entirety of the upland portion of the site is being utilized, and runoff goes straight down to the wall into the wetlands. So we're hoping to rectify that by putting a raised berm there. That'll also force activities at the site to be offset a greater distance than what's existing right now. And there's also concerns over snow storage at the site. So we've added in our notes section on the plan that all snow storage shall be located as indicated on site plan and stockpiled outside the 100-foot buffer zone. This site's unique in that we do propose a building which is almost entirely outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. There's a small parking area in the front, and we're utilizing the area between the site's access from Spectacle Pond Road, and there's a landscaped island that's sufficient to provide our snow storage. The rest of the site is the level storage yard that we walked around briefly. That summarizes our changes. Thankfully, DEP was able to issue a file number to us. We received number 204-977. There were really no comments. They did request that we verify that we have sufficient offset to the groundwater table. And as Amy mentioned, we've been through the process with the planning board, and the stormwater management system at the site has been reviewed successfully by the planning board's peer reviewer, and there's essentially no groundwater issues at this site. Our test holes were in excess of 10 feet deep, and we did not encounter groundwater. So that's a nutshell of what's happened since the last time we discussed this. If the commission has any specific questions for me, I'd be happy to dive into those. Certainly, if there's none, the applicants are looking forward to starting construction on this. So respectfully, if an order of conditions could be issued, we'd be happy with that as well.
I have no further issues with it. I guess the only question I have maybe is for Amy. Did Carl ever get 2 cents in on, did he make it out to the site at any point?
Not that he told me anyway.
Did he have questions about that berm? I know I had raised some questions.
I think he was just kind of unclear about what it was going to be.
Yeah.
That it was being provided as mitigation, not as some way of making work occur closer to the wetland. And I think he got that answered after the meeting, and I sent the picture that showed the spray painted line.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, I don't have any. I have no other questions.
I just want to talk about the seeding and the mowing plan, Seth, for the berm area and that offset. What is, I think I see the details on the plan, but can you walk us through how you're planning on managing that in perpetuity?
Yeah, so the berm itself is essentially supposed to be a maintenance-free berm, and that is something that came up. So we've specified New England Wetlands Plants Conservation and Wildlife seed mix, or an approved equal. So whether the commission has something that they favor over that, or if it's something that just availability issues, we would certainly let you know if that doesn't come up. But the New England Wetland Plants are, if you're not familiar, it's a nursery in Amherst, and they're able to mail order those seed packets as well, or it's a 1 pound bag or a couple pound bag. So that mix, I think it's like Black-Eyed Susan, big blue stem, little blue stem, and beggar ticks. So they're kind of some taller features that'll kind of supplement this barrier. in the growing season, and it really doesn't need to be mowed at all if the commission prefers that that doesn't occur. If you'd like it mowed, it can tolerate that as well. So that would kind of be at your discretion type of thing.
And in terms of the soil that'll be used to create that berm, where is that? Is that borrow soil from the construction, or is that going to be material brought in off-site? And in particular, what does the top 6 inches look like there? And then see a cross section.
So there's no cross section, so it's a foot tall. I would specify that it would be a loam material.
Okay.
Essentially, the site, well, it is a loam processing yard, so there's an abundance of loam available and good loam. A lot of the site that it's well tracked gravel. The site as a whole can support truck traffic as it is. So it would be good to have something that can support better growing conditions.
I guess that was the condition that I wanted to make sure was there, is that we're not using material that is incongruent with the material, with the plant life that we're trying to grow, right? 2-foot berm consisting primarily of gravel isn't going to help us a lot there in terms of wildlife or wildflower mixes and so on.
So I think if a special condition, if you would be up for it, we could just say that is to be constructed of loam, good quality loam.
Yep. Yeah, I don't think it needs to be anything specific. Quality loam sufficient to support the New England Conservation Wildflower Mix.
Which is
Andrew,
probably a good
Brian?
idea. Some of those grasses are deep rooted grasses, so having them something to get their feet in is probably a good idea. More than just 6 inches.
Oh, okay. Take your lead on that.
I don't have any concerns, Chase. I think this looks good.
And I don't have anything to add either.
One of you guys want to add a motion for us then?
Sure, I will make a motion that we. I have my agenda on my phone and it keeps disappearing. Let's see if I can reload it. Okay, here we go. I will make a motion that we issue an order of conditions for 6 Spectacle Pond Road, DEP file number 204-977.
I believe this came with a waiver also, right, for the
Oh, that's right.
the berm.
With the associated waiver.
Second,
All right, roll call vote. Brian,
Brian Crowley, aye.
Kyle,
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Chase,
Chase Kerbeck, guy.
myself, I. It's unanimous.
Thank you and have a happy holiday.
You
Thanks,
too.
you
Take
too,
care.
Seth.
Thanks, you too, Seth.
Okay, last up for the night, 32 Lake Warren Drive. Amy, you told me we did receive a DEP file number here.
We got the DEP file number, and actually, as an aside, when she sent me the file number, she said that she thought the plan was very well done. She gave kudos to Bartlett who drew the plan, and he did extend the erosion controls. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it tonight, but we are just holding out for the file number. So I think if you're amenable, we can probably close it and issue it, unless you had questions, in which case we'll bring him back in on January 3rd.
I didn't have anything. Brian, Andrew, Kyle.
And I'd throw the plan up, but apparently the link. is
I was just
possibly
gonna say I was
something-
trying to throw the plan up.
Yeah,
I can't.
I think I recall this one being pretty buttoned up, except for the file number.
And what was the Mass DP file number, Amy?
0978.
I'll move that we close the public hearing and issue an order of conditions for, excuse me, 32 Lake Warren Drive, Mass DEP file number 204-978,
And a waiver.
and a waiver. Thank you.
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Brian,
Brian Crowley, aye.
Chase,
Chase Kerbeck, guy.
Kyle,
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
myself, I. It's unanimous.
Okay. That was our last scheduled item. Amy, anything else on the administrative agenda that we need to?
Just
address?
two other things. Wellington Circle, I was having trouble getting this one up again. Yeah, I think there's something wrong with the town GIS right now because I can't get to it. But the property behind Wellington Circle, where they put the trail through, was intended through the planning board to be donated to the town. The questions come up: should it go to the town or should it come to Conscom? And I believe through Maren that if it goes to the town, it has to go to town meeting. If it goes to Conscom, I think you guys can just vote on it. Not ready to vote yet. It's probably a pretty good piece of property to have. It links up some other ones. It is mostly wetland, and for better or worse, it's probably going to need mowing. But it links up a couple of parcels in that area. So unless anyone has any thoughts, that was just kind of more of a heads up than anything else.
Okay. Do we have any indication whether anyone else in the town has a strong preference which way it goes?
Sherry Gold just sent this over yesterday or today. So it hasn't, I don't think it's even down to town council yet. I mean, it's, half a paragraph long, but early days yet in the scheme of things.
Okay.
Was that predetermined, like where it would go when we were going through this process? Because I feel like some of it was pre-designated to go to Conscom.
That's what, Maureen was trying to remember, and she asked me if I remember, and I said, I have no memory of this whatsoever. So she was going to look into the subdivision, into the planning board conditions, and see what it said.
Okay. So we'll pick this one up then after town council has had a chance to look.
When it gets a little more, yeah.
Good.
And then the only other thing is kind of two things. I am working with someone down at town council about the whole styrofoam issue, and if we even have jurisdiction over something like that. He's actually looking into Chapter 91 stuff. It's like, oh my God. So that's on the back burner for now. Nothing more is happening, put it that way. I went down and take a look at it, and it was after it had snowed, so you can't see, it's all white, and you can't really see out there anyway, unless you're on private property.
Frozen in soon anyway.
Pardon?
It's going to be frozen in soon at this point.
Yeah, exactly. And I might touch base with Westford and see if they have any. Some towns do have requirements that you can't use styrofoam on your docks. I'm sure existing docks are grandfathered, but as you replace them. And of course, this brought up the whole bugaboo again about how many of these docks in town are actually licensed or permitted. Probably not the majority of them. And I poked around a little bit. Stowe has just come up with sort of a policy within their Conscom that if any property owner comes in front of you that has a dock, whether the permit has anything to do with the dock or not, they got to bring the dock into compliance. Not going to go chase people, but if people are in front of them. So it might be worth considering something like that. And the other one,
Amy, could you circulate that language from Stowe?
Yeah. It's actually pretty nice and short too, which is nice. And the other thing that came up is Dave Barr did some beach nourishment in front of his property, and got ratted out. So that's the other thing I'm trying to chase is how the heck that works. If everybody has to get a permit when they redo it. I thought there was some sort of exemption. So actually the town council's kind of looking into that as well. I'm not sure if just because one person got thrown on the bus that we should chase them and not everybody else. So it might be almost not a class action suit, but, send a letter to all the property owners on all the lakes and say, if you have a dock, this is what, the policy might be if you come in front of us or, whatever. If you need to do sand nourishment or something like that, beach nourishment, excuse me, this is what you're going to need to do. Because it's been going on and no one's, I don't believe anyone's been held accountable.
I'd like to think that that would be enough to help keep people accountable. I just don't know if it will be.
How do other towns handle beach nourishment as a formal I mean, in the strictest definition, right? You're filling a wetland.
You're filling, right? Yeah, absolutely.
But there is, I hadn't had a chance to look it up. I thought there was a limited project, which doesn't mean you don't need a permit. It just means you can't do it for beach nourishment. Because if I recall, this came up at Long Lake at the public beach there. Because they're doing it a lot. But if you keep it above mean annual high water, then it's a whole different issue than if you're actually getting into the water. Even during a drawdown. So I got to look into it some more. We do want to try to, I would guess, kind of try to hold this in a little bit, see what's going on out there.
Yeah, we don't want people just throwing whatever dirt they can find and calling it beach nourishment.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I think it needs to be documented and regulated somehow. It's just
DEP has a whole guidance on it, and they talk about the grain size and what the material is, and above or below mean how high water, how deep it is.
Right, minimal fines, all kinds of fun
yeah,
stuff.
right, exactly.
Because that is where the sand goes, and it's probably at least in a small part what the weed problem is at Mattawanaki. If this stuff is migrating out, it's just getting shallower. So fun for another day.
Good, cool.
When I found out about that current beach nourishment, it was already done. So it's a done deal right now. We're not stopping anything. If the sand eventually has to come out, the sand has to come out, but it's not going to make a difference right now. It's stable.
Understood. Okay.
Just needs research.
We can pile a lot into Tim's extra 3 hours a week if we get him.
Good thing it's up to 22.
Yeah,
Fines and penalties.
There's 3 hours a week comes with a long list of things to do.
Real quick,
I wouldn't put this one on him.
Yeah. No, if we're moving on to a quick question for you, Amy. I saw some new wetland flags. I guess is it Two Brothers Trail down behind the library?
Yeah, I don't know what that was.
You don't.
I was actually out there the other
Okay.
day and I saw them.
Yes. So
Um,
it looked like they were put in like November, I think was the date.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me because I meant to ask somebody what the heck's going on. I don't know if it was from the housing that they're planning something. It was a surprise to me, but they did. They look nice and fresh.
Yeah. I know the town. I think you and I had mentioned. I talked about the tennis courts, and it was at one of the planning board meetings. They had put out. I'm blanking on what the name of the property is now, but at the middle school, back there somewhere, and I didn't know where. They weren't very clear on where they were talking about, but it was somewhere by the elementary school or middle school. They thought was going to be a good idea for tennis courts, but would need to go through a lot of people. And I was wondering if that maybe is the spot that they chose. I never followed up on subsequent meetings to hear if they decided on a parcel.
Yeah, I mean, Two Brothers is either steep slope or wetlands.
Right. Yeah. So it can't be
it's-
there, but I didn't know if it would be on the other side maybe, and they were just delineating the whole thing or what.
The whole thing, yeah.
Just I guess you'd be curious to see what you hear, or it's flagged for a reason. I assume we'll hear about it sooner rather than later. But
Yeah, we don't want to discourage people from coming in with things properly flagged in the first place. Right?
Yeah.
Deal with that enough. Okay, anything else to add to this meeting, or shall we adjourn?
I'm done.
Sure. I'll make a motion that we adjourn the Conservation Commission at 9:02.
Second. All right, roll call vote. Brian,
Brian Crowley, aye.
Chase,
Chase Carey, guy.
Kyle.
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
All right. Oh, myself, it's unanimous. All right.
You
Hey,
feeling
have a
better,
great
Amy?
holiday.
Yeah, you feeling better?
Good night,
Amy?
everybody.